few minutes to see if anybody else is going to join the Zoom. Anybody else? So that's waiting. I'm just waiting to see if there's anybody else that's going to join the Zoom.
Zoom.
Yeah, I'm gonna show the video and Zoom all at the same time.
I told my kids at home just to watch it.
Okay.
That's what I did.
You posted it on
Yes.
camera? Okay.
I told them just to watch the link.
Okay, we're gonna be doing the ones in class gonna be participating in like a virtual dissection. Those of you online, you will have to watch this video that I'm getting ready to play. But I'm waiting to see if there's anybody else that's gonna join this Zoom before I start the video. It's a very good video. Okay, we're gonna start this video, and this the ones in class, you just follow along with what he tells you. Go ahead and move your brain in front of you, so when he picks up the brain, you can pick up the brain. You didn't. You want now? There's the gloves right up here, Susan. You have any gloves? Okay. Okay, we're getting ready to start.
Hi everyone, welcome back to High School Science.
Our brains are pig brains.
Dissection, but this time we're dissecting a sheep's brain. And I'm going to go over some of the main structures you need to know and some of the basic functions of those structures. But if you're interested in any of these parts in a bit more detail, by all means, I encourage you to do a bit more research because it's a really complex and very interesting organ. Before we begin though, there's some safety aspects that we need to consider, as always. And firstly, you'll notice that I've got paper towel around the brain, and this whole surface that I've got here is covered in paper towel. And that's to prevent contact between the brain and any surfaces that I might be touching with my skin. Because this brain is covered in bacteria, and if any of that gets on your skin and then you touch your food or pens or any other equipment or other people, you're going to contaminate them and you can make them very, very sick or make yourself very sick. So that's why you should always wear gloves as well. And when you finish the dissection, when you take the gloves off, wash your hands as well, just in case. Of course, being a dissection, we're also using some very sharp instruments. We're using some scalpels. These are usually disposable, especially the ones that we use in schools. So listen to a teacher's instructions very carefully about what to do with these once you've finished. Don't try and remove the blade yourself because you could easily cut yourself. And also when you're using these, they do cut things very easily. and they might accidentally slice your glove. If the glove is ripped or torn, replace it immediately, because as I said, you don't want your hands coming into direct contact with this brain. Before we even think about cutting into this brain, there's a lot of features that we can already start to identify.
He's getting ready to start picking up
Firstly,
his brain.
notice that we've got all these bumpy bits and wrinkly bits on the brain. The raised bits are called gyri, and the sunken bits, the gaps, are called sulci. And we can use some of these to try and identify different regions of the brain. So the two main ones are this one that goes all the way across lengthways, and this is called the longitudinal fissure.
Y'all can see that on
And
your
this one
brain.
across here is called the central sulcus. And so we can use these two to try and navigate and find different parts of the brain. This longitudinal fissure divides the brain into our left half and right half. We call them our left hemisphere and right hemisphere. And people, you can do online quizzes and see whether you're left hemisphere dominant or right hemisphere dominant. And the thinking there is that if you're more into logic and reasoning and maths and language skills, you're left hemisphere dominant, so you mainly use your left side of the brain. But if you're more creative and artistic and into music and poetry, then you're more right hemisphere dominant, so you use your right side more. The truth is that both hemispheres talk to each other all the time. And sure, maybe you might favor one side more than the other, but ultimately you don't just use one half or the other half. You use both all the time. This central sulcus allows us to identify this region in front of it as the frontal lobe. And you can also remember it as the frontal lobe because it is the front part of the brain, but it reaches this central sulcus. And this frontal lobe is responsible for decision-making, for planning, for judgment, for learning from consequences, personality. And sometimes people with damage to this part of the brain, if you get them to trace through a maze with their finger, they'll reach a dead end, go back to the start, and make the exact same mistake again over and over because they can't learn from their mistakes. So this is a really crucial part of the brain responsible for thinking and learning as well. This part here, just behind the central sulcus, this region here, is called the parietal lobe. And you can remember that because parietal starts with P, and so does perception. And this area is responsible for perceiving our environment, making sense of the world around us. So it receives all of our sensory information and tries to put it all together and make sense of what's around us. It's also responsible for proprioception, which is sometimes called our sixth sense. And that's basically the map inside your brain of where your body is at all times, where your hands are, where your legs are, what your body is doing. Even when your eyes are closed, you still have some idea of where all of your organs are and what you're doing. At the back of our brain here, we've got our occipital lobes, and they're responsible for vision. So usually in biology, anything to do with vision starts with O. So we've got ocular, ophthalmology, optometry, and it's the same here. We've got our occipital lobes. And you can also remember it because our eyes would be at the front of our head here, but our vision is at the back. So it's kind of the opposite of what you would expect. At the back here, you'll notice this structure, and this is called the hindbrain sometimes because it looks like a little mini brain behind our cerebrum.
Y'all can see that a little
This
bit.
is called our cerebrum with our 4 lobes. And this is actually called our cerebellum. And this fine-tunes our motor commands. Your motor commands that tell you to move your arms, for example, or to pick up these scissors, are generated in our motor cortex, which is sort of around this area here, just in front of our central sulcus. But those commands, those motor commands, are really, really basic. And if we were relying on just those motor commands without the cerebellum, and I wanted to pick up these scissors, it would just be a really basic instruction, a really basic command, and I wouldn't actually be able to pick them up. I wouldn't have the fine motor movement in my fingers to pick them up. This cerebellum fine-tunes that. It's like a filter that fine-tunes that motor command and gives me a lot more precision and fine motor control to be able to actually use my fingers, the very delicate muscles in my fingers, to pick that up very carefully. So it's kind of like our filter. It gives us a greater sense of coordination. Let's flip it over now. And underneath,
Flip your brain over.
you'll see kind of like where the spinal cord connects to the brain. This is called the brainstem. And this whole region underneath the brain is very, very important for all
Y'all
of the
see your
involuntary
brainstem?
things that keep us
Touch your
alive.
brain stem.
Breathing, body temperature, alertness, swallowing and digestion, all of the things that we don't think about, the things that keep us on autopilot, basically, that keep us alive. And when you're sleeping, this takes over and makes sure that you're still breathing and you're still pumping blood around your body, even though you're unconscious. So without this brainstem, or if you get damage to this brainstem, you're in a fair bit of trouble. We're ready to cut it open now, and we're going to cut along our longitudinal fissure.
Turn your
so that we
brains
can
back
see the
over.
inside. And in particular, we're looking for a region called the limbic system, and that's responsible for a lot of things, including our emotions. So let's
Use the
start.
green scalpel.
We're going to be cutting away from ourselves, as always. It's very, very sharp.
I'll pause it so y'all can get it cut. Keep cutting.
Like say all the way through.
All the way through, all the way
Y'all
through.
can have.
Y'all can lay it over. Put it all the way through.
I'm gonna do a cross section of that. Call it cross section. Very good. Excellent.
I won't keep touching my face and I'm touching that brain.
Don't do that now. Don't touch your face.
Very good. Look at you being a surgeon. Everybody got it cut all the way open? Who does not have it cut all the way open where it lays open? Like you done split a chicken. Like you done split a chicken open. Y'all did some very good cuts.
I'm telling you, this must have been as tough as those kidneys have.
Nuh-uh. And this video is a lot better than the handout that it's a lot better than the handout that we had for these last year. Okay, he's cutting his brain. Look at what he's doing. And after we finish this, y'all can play with your brains a little bit, then dump them in that trash over there. See, the brain he's using has never been soaked in formaldehyde. This looked like a fresh pig brain. I mean, sheep brain.
Is that a pig?
Uh-huh.
The first thing
But
you'll
you-
notice is that there's lots of white matter. We call
See
it
that?
white matter. And this area is called grey matter. Even though it's pink, we call it grey matter. The white matter is white because those neurons, because the brain is essentially made of trillions of neurons, these neurons have a coating called myelin. And that's basically a layer of insulation that helps speed up the nerve impulses. So that this area here can communicate to this area really quickly through these myelinated
Can y'all
neurons.
see that in your brain?
It's not as important that this outside of the brain isn't myelinated because the transport system that allows this part of the brain, for example, to talk to this part is really through the inside of the brain. And so as long as this highway is myelinated and the signal can travel pretty much instantly from here to here, that's fine. But it's not so much important for this part to talk to this part through this grey matter. That doesn't really happen as much.
I'm gonna pause it right there. But you would think that when he's saying that as long as this part is white on the inside, that signals are still able to travel. Now you think about someone that's suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's disease. They can't really do this to them until after the person has actually passed away. But can you imagine how their brain looks on the inside? Because they're not getting all these signals that a normal brain would get. I mean, it's basis where their brain is being damaged. So can you imagine how the inside of their brain look from someone that has suffered from dementia or Alzheimer's? So just look at how white that is and just think about how someone with dementia brain would look.
Of course, you'll also notice that this spinal cord is mainly made up of white matter. And that's really crucial because if you generate a motor command here, it needs to get to where it needs to get to, the hand or leg that you're trying to move, almost instantly. So it needs to go through this white matter here into our spinal cord and transmit almost instantly into the muscle that we're trying to target. As you were cutting through this longitudinal fissure, you would have cut through a more solid white part, and this is called the corpus callosum. And this essentially connects the left and right hemispheres together so that they can communicate to each other. as I said earlier, your brain doesn't function with the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere doing separate tasks. They're always speaking to each other, and they do so through this corpus callosum. There are lots of structures inside here that are a bit hard to see,
Y'all see that
not only
corpus
because
callosum?
this brain isn't really the best one to demonstrate with, but also because it's not as developed in sheep. And this is actually a lamb's brain. So this whole area isn't as developed as the human's one. Human ones are much easier to identify structures with. But in here, you've got areas responsible for anger, like the amygdala. The whole limbic system itself is made up of different parts responsible for things to do with emotions and other involuntary things that you don't necessarily think about. Inside, you've also got an area called the midbrain, which assists with motor movement of the eyes in particular, and also helps focus attention on things. Your attention is basically like a spotlight that you can focus on only one thing at a time generally. And that's why when you're driving a car, you shouldn't use your phone, because your spotlight goes from being attentive
Y'all pay
to what's
attention
in
what he
front of you
said about
on
using
the
a
road
phone and driving
to
a
your
car.
phone. And you can generally only focus on one thing effectively at a time. So that's in your thalamus, in your midbrain. So those are basically the main things that I can show you today with this particular brain. I've only touched the tip of the iceberg with some of the aspects of the brain and what they do. If you're interested in any more of these things in more detail, by all means do some more research, start getting interested in psychology, because it's a really interesting subject. It's my background. So I find all of this stuff so fascinating, because this is really what is responsible for you being you, your personality, your thinking, your memory, everything about you is due to your brain. So it's a really fascinating organ, and I hope that gives you a really brief overview about some major things to look for if you're dissecting a sheep's brain. Thanks for watching.
Okay, the ones online, did y'all enjoy that little video? Are y'all still online? I need to hear y'all speak.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do y'all have any question about any of the urinary work that you need to get turned in if you ain't turned it in, or any of the nervous system work that we have to do? Because I've added in the quiz, the vocabulary quiz is in there, and also the code for the nervous system test is in there as well. And don't forget, you still have 2 more assignments, which is looking at that 9-minute video about the nervous system and writing a paragraph on that and getting that submitted. And then this 2-minute video, you have to do a 3-sentence reflection on that. Do y'all have any questions about any of this work?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, if y'all are done, we're done watching the video. The ones here in class can play with their brains a little bit longer. But y'all need to make sure you're getting your work done for the nervous system and getting it ready to be turned in on Friday. And I'll see y'all tomorrow on Zoom. Y'all have a good day.